So I'm going to start off tonight by giving you some background on the current state of public education in Delaware and specifically in Wilmington, and that will sort of be the basis for the rest of the talks. So spending and performance. So yeah. The most recent national assessment of public schools was the 2022 National Assessment of Educational Progress, or NAEP. This is also called the nation's report card, and it's given every other year by the Federal Department of Education to a sample of students in each state in grades 4 and 8 for math and English. So the NAEP is used to compare one state with another and one year's performance with another. You can't break down scores by districts or schools or individual students with that. So there's two different tests, so people get confused between that and the state testing. So on the NAEP in 2022, Delaware had the 4th worst overall test scores in the country. That's when you just average the 4th grade and 8th grade for math and English and compare it to all the other states, and we were really bad. Sadly, this is the case despite the fact that we are 10th from the top in overall spending out of all 50 states. Delaware spends over $17,000 per student each year. The other 9 high spending states are in the Northeast region and perform in the top half, and many toward the very top of the country in their educational performance. So this is not okay. Next slide. So in order to determine how individual schools and districts perform, we need to look at a different assessment. The state of Delaware uses the Smarter Balanced assessment to evaluate individual schools, districts, and students. So this is what your kids take at the end of each school year, and then you find out about in August. So we just got the latest results. The Smarter Balanced test corresponds with the Common Core curriculum, which is the curriculum that is used in Delaware. For high school students, the SAT is what is used. So the 2023 Smarter Balanced assessment that we just got showed that 40% of Delaware students were proficient in English. So that's way less than half. 32% of students were proficient in math. So that is about a third. The SAT scores for high school showed that 44% of students were proficient in reading, again, significantly less than half. 23% are proficient in math, so about a quarter, and 42% were proficient on the essay part of the SAT. So this poor test performance is even more significant for minority students and students with special needs. The schools that have the minority students, have the special needs, have the lower income, experience the lowest scores on this state-mandated testing. So that is a problem as well. In fact, we have 17 schools in Delaware that have less than 1 in 10 students able to read or do math at grade level. Not okay. Next slide. It is a crime, yes. That's why we're all here. So this is an example report card. I know it's kind of small. This is from the Department of Education site. So you can see, so this is for the state of Delaware as a whole. And you can see that for ELA, 40%, can you see that? This is 40% of students in the state are proficient in English language arts. 30% are proficient in math, so not good. Less than half in English and a third, less than a third in math. You will hear later on from Representative Ruth Briggs King about the attendance. We have 79% of students regularly in attendance, which means we have 21% who are regularly not in attendance, which is also a very large problem. And that's defined as missing more than 1 out of every 10 days of school. So that's not good. Interestingly, when you compare the English language arts percentage and the math with the graduation rates, do you notice anything that shouldn't be?
Yeah.
Yeah, the graduation rate.
Yeah, everybody's graduating even though they can't read and do math. So that is another huge problem.
Can you read their diplomas?
No, probably not. So next slide. So the question is, would more money make a difference? The average amount spent per pupil in education is about $17,000. Depends on where you look as to exactly 16, 17, 18. Interestingly, when I looked into the amount that each Delaware school spends per student, I found that many of the schools with the worst performance actually have the highest spending. I have papers on your tables that are a report card for 4 schools in the city of Wilmington that are all single-digit schools, meaning that less than 1 in 10 kids at those schools can read or do math at grade level. They are 4 of the worst. On that paper, you can see their Smarter Balanced scores for English and for math. And you can see it's always less than 10%, sadly, 6% for Bancroft, 3.5%. Meanwhile, you can see up here on this that if we say 17,000 is about the average for Bancroft School with single-digit proficiency, they spend 28,000. Wow. The Bayard School, single-digit proficiency, spends 22,000, and Warner Elementary School spends 23,000. So I don't honestly know exactly why that is. I have one of our Caesar Rodney wonderful people, there she is, Dr. Beck is looking into that for me to try to figure out where that money's going.
That would be nice to know.
Yes, it would be nice to know. So one last thing, you may have heard this last week, there were some national blue ribbon schools in Delaware. The 3 schools, this is the next, yes, thank you, are the Olive B. Loss Elementary School, the Thurgood Marshall Elementary School, and the Lord Baltimore Elementary School. To get this award, it's not based on just on performance. It's based partly on performance and partly on achievement in closing gaps among diverse student groups. So each of these schools performed above average. So there was an interesting quote in the newspaper. Marshall Elementary has a majority of black students, and yet 51% of students there can read at grade level, 45% can do math at grade level, so significantly higher than the average. And I liked their quote. They said, this is Marshall Elementary's description of themselves. The instructors at Marshall Elementary are deeply committed to facilitating students' academic accomplishments, firmly believing in the potential for excellence in every learner, irrespective of background or ability. I think that's the key to the difference, that if we believe that the kids can do this, they're going to do it.